First off, there is not any new news on Alex Leatherwood, but I have revisited his 2022 tape. He had limited snaps in 2 games, and his play was up and down. He only played 32 snaps total, so it wasn't a ton to digest. His first 10 snaps looked very promising. His limited snaps versus the Eagles looked disastrous. Out of his 32 snaps, he gave up 5 total pressures and 1 sack to Hassan Reddick of the Eagles. I didn't overreact to his one bad performance because Hassan Reddick routinely made even good right tackles look bad this season. He had 16 sacks on the year, and I'm not going to write off Leatherwood because he gave up one of his 16 sacks during his limited reps. He was a first-round pick in the 2021 NFL Draft for a reason. He has the size, length, and athleticism to play in the NFL. He was a dominant left tackle at Alabama, but needed to seriously work on his pass blocking technique. The Raiders didn't give him time to develop and threw him right into the starting lineup at right guard, a position he had never played. He struggled mightily in pass protection, allowing the most pressures in the league. He did, however, start every game as a rookie. The Raiders decided to cut bait on him in year 2. Does Alex Leatherwood have the talent to be a starting tackle or guard in the NFL? Yes, he does. But is he ready to be counted on right now? No, he is not. I have spoke about this briefly before, but I've been asked for an update on Alex Leatherwood routinely this offseason. When he was drafted in 2021, he was a very raw left tackle out of Alabama who was a dominant run blocker, but his pass technique was a mess. I think after an offseason with Chris Morgan and this coaching staff, maybe Leatherwood will be ready to compete for a starting job, potentially at right tackle or even serve as the swing tackle. I, however, don't think the coaches can go into the season with a plan for him to take a starting job. Even though he showed some potential and was a dominant player at Alabama, his pass protection has simply been awful in the NFL. Of course he can improve, and he has the talent to win a starting job and be a really good player in this league, but until we see it on the field, he is simply not a starting option. The same can be said for guys like Doug Kramer, Dieter Iceland, and Kellen Diesch as well. It's up to them to put in the work this offseason and make strides in camp and preseason this year. We should get some updates over the course of the offseason, but right now there are no organized team activities until after the draft. For Doug Kramer, I would say his roster spot is not guaranteed this year. I like him, but he's undersized, and he spent his rookie season on the injured reserve. He has to come back, show he can stay healthy, and handle the strength of the NFL before he can be counted on. Simply put, this center class is too good for Ryan Poles to not address the position with at least a late round pick. For everyone else, the offseason is about getting better. The coaching staff met with every single player for multiple hours after the season. They went over what they did right and what they need to get better at. Sometimes it's as simple as that. The player has to make the improvements. Coaches can only do so much. I believe that could be the case with Alex Leatherwood here. The coaches got some tape on him, and they got to see what he needs to get better at. Will he take that message to heart and put in the work this offseason to become a better player? This is one of the reasons I'm so high on Braxton Jones. Coaches can only do so much. It's up to the player to put the words into action. Braxton's hand usage and improvement from the draft to training camp and then continuing throughout the season was incredibly impressive. He listened to the coaches and he put in the work, and he's also smart enough to understand what he needs to do. That's why I believe he's going to put in the work to improve his strength and anchor this season and has the potential to be one of the best tackles in football. We'll talk more about Braxton this offseason. Don't worry, but for Alex Leatherwood, this offseason is about him doing the same thing. He was traded mid-season, and then he got sick and had mono, so he didn't have the same opportunity to improve during the year as Braxton did. Getting traded mid-season in the NFL for a player is hard. Playbooks and foundations are installed in the offseason. During the season, teams are focused on their opponents each week, not teaching guys basic fundamentals. Leatherwood now has the time to put in the work this offseason, and we will get a chance to see him after the draft for mini camps. He has the potential to be a starting offensive lineman, but Poles cannot go into the season counting on him, which is why I expect the tackle to be added during the draft. As fans, I think it's important to give our general manager a chance. I would say throughout our history, there have been a lot of GMs that did awful jobs, so at times it's easy to think we could have done a better job ourselves, and sometimes that might even be true. But with a new general manager like Ryan Poles, who has received nothing but glowing reviews from around the NFL, you have to give him the benefit of the doubt, which is what I've done for the last year. But after a full year on the job, I've been blown away by what Ryan Poles has accomplished. He hasn't done what other GMs traditionally do, which is why there's a lot of disconnect with some fans. I've said it plenty of times, but I love what Ryan Poles is doing. I don't feel like I'm being a homer at all. I trust his process. He isn't overpaying in free agency, and he's building through the draft. On top of that, in just 1 year, he's acquired an extra 8 draft picks. Our previous GMs had a habit of trading away picks and not valuing the NFL draft. I've always believed in building through the draft. It's a core value that was instilled in me at a young age. So it has often hurt to just watch the guys in charge of the franchise I love not share those core beliefs and be so careless with our team's future. I wouldn't have cared if we ended up winning, but watching this team lose and the guys in charge handle things incorrectly is so hard. So I get the reason for pessimism, but it's important to not blame our new GM for the mistakes of our past GMs. Ryan Poles is doing things differently, but I believe in this process 110%. This is how you build a football team. It's not an overnight process. It's something that's done brick by brick. Poles has built a solid foundation for this team going forward, and I trust the process that he will continue to bring in young and exciting talent to this roster. This is only the beginning. We still have a long way to go, but I couldn't be more excited for this team's future. Stay tuned. Hit the like button for me. Turn on those notifications so you can come along for the ride. And until next time, bear down.